see the makers in the Mikdash. It's God himself.
Yeah. It's also a commandment, Ladoros, Asuk Mikdash. I think the Rambam learns from there that we have a perpetual mitzvah to build also a temple. But the actual thing itself in the Torah is talking about the Mishkan. And the Mishkan was made from Atzei Shittim, from cedar wood.
It's actually acacia, right?
Acacia, I think, is a type of cedar we learned in the last Maimer. No? It said that Atzei Shittim is the Meshubach Sheba Arazi. We learned that in the previous Maimer. It's like it's a very high quality type of cedar. I don't know.
Okay.
We learned it in the Maimer from the Midler Rebbe on Shabbos. I hear you. I truth is I don't know what acacia wood looks like, nor really cedar wood looks like, but this is what's going on. The Liyos she'ikar avoda b'mishkan or mikdash hu lizhabcha chashuch l'nahora. So, because the main work there of the Mishkan and the Mikdash is to, as we said, transform darkness into light. Therefore, it was made from Atzei Shittim. What does it mean? Chashucha l'nahora, darkness to light. Shezeu inyan avodas hakarbanos kanal. As we said, this is the whole concept of a carbon, is to turn animal into godliness, right? But that's the whole concept of the entire Mishkan. Everything that happens in the Mishkan, including what the Mishkan itself is made out of, is a symbol of this notion of turning darkness into light. And he says, "Ubifrat ma'aseh ketoras," particularly the ketoras, the incense offering, was really like in a general way the ultimate transformation of darkness into light. Who can tell me why? Who can guess why? What we've learned because of smell. What do we know about the ketoras? What we learned about the ketoras? The 11 spices. What do the 11 spices represent? The 11 crowns of impurity. Give it up. So the whole idea of the incense is that they represent the number 11. We said in Kedusha there's not 11. In Kedusha there's 10. Not 9, not 11. It says in Sefer Yetzirah. But in Klippa there's Dafka 11. And it's a whole story as to why. See what I think it was in Maimer of Lech Lecha over there or something. We learned about it, that the idea is that why is there 11? Because the 10, which is the Or Panimi, gets swallowed up completely and you don't see godliness. When the godliness comes to enliven a Klippa, it pretends like there's no godliness there, and it totally supersedes it and says, I'm here, I created myself. It hides the godliness which is invested inside of it. The question is, how does it exist? If it's stealing the godliness which is its life force and not admitting that it comes from God, what enlivens it? So we said that the 11th crown enlivens it. This makif, it's sort of kept in existence from outside of itself because it's not being batal to elokus, and therefore it's the makif which keeps it alive. I'm not going to go all into that. We did it at a different time. But in general, that's all symbolized by the 11 spices of the Ketoras. So the whole idea is the Ketoras is the most prized service in the Mikdash in this inyan of turning darkness into light, because it's like pure klippa, basically, the inyan of klippa, 11, and they're making even that into a godly sacrifice. Okay, but he puts that in parentheses, and the truth is Rebbe has different, here he says, Parshas Vayeshev. Okay, he says in Torah or, not Parshas Lech Lecha, Parshas Vayeshev, we learned about that. But, anyway, he doesn't get into it in this Maimer, is the truth. That's just a little word about it. But in general, the whole avodah of the Beis Hamikdash was this idea of turning darkness into light, including the karbanos, including the ketoras, and now we're really going to get to including the walls of the Beis Hamikdash themselves, the actual structure. So through the avodah in the Mikdash, as you just mentioned, Fayal, that through the Beis Hamikdash it brought godliness into the world. It revealed godliness into the world. And therefore the whole thing was built from Atzei Shittim, from this wood. Why? Because hine shita. What does the word shita mean? Perusha netiya. Right? You ever heard a person has a certain shita? You ever heard that? So this is
leaning.
It's called a leaning, right? You say this one has his sheet is that you should do this, you should, I don't know, I don't want to get into different sheets right now.
Shita is like an order.
An order?
Shita.
Right.
Shita is like an order.
Like, he says like a certain leaning in a certain direction. Inclination. Right? person says, that's not my shita. I don't go like that. I don't go out like that. Whatever. I don't want to get into pratim there. But dahainu sheyesh davar shu emtsoi. The tia means a leaning. Leaning, inclination. Right? Inclination comes from the word incline. Right? So the idea is that you have something which is called emtsoi, as he goes to the next line. You have a middle ground, and then you have an inclination to one side or the other of this sort of top of the mountain. You're either going to go this way or you're going to go this way. From center, you're going to either incline or decline. And the turning to either side of that middle point, lamaila or lamata, either above or below, nikres shita. That's called a shita. It means you're inclining from the middle.
The same word as going.
No.
Iza.
Eza to
go.
no. Azil, that was.
What's Iza?
Eza is batil eza tzad, to some side.
That's you.
What? Eza?
Iza.
To some side. Some side or another. Eza is sort of like this or that.
So what kind of coffee? You're going coffee? You're going coffee? אתה עושה?
אני אקח.
יש למטה כזה?
Yeah.
אני אחפש.
V'kein peter stus. Here, this is basically, I don't know, every single line of this mimer is classic for all generations and all times, but it just, here we are. Kein peter stus. This is what it means, the word stus. You ever hear people talking about stus? That's stus. So, the word stus comes from the word shita. You heard of the word stus, right? Yeah, I heard you say the stus. So, this word comes from the word shita, which means an inclination or a veering or leaning from center to some direction. The shtus, hu hatiya mahayadiya v'hachachma. Shtus means turning from knowledge and wisdom. Why? Because yediya v'hasaga hu derech hamitzua. Because, and this is just a rule that he brings here, knowledge and understanding and grasping is called the middle way, the intermediate way. It's right in the middle there, right? V'hanatiya mizeh nikra shtus, and turning off of logic basically is called shtus. It's called turning in one direction or the other. That's why he's saying this is shtus, a person doing shtus, right? It means he's like doing something foolish. Why is it suddenly foolish? Because you'll explain to him, reasonably you shouldn't be doing such a thing. Why should you have paint on the walls, basically, right? Right? You're going to go spray painting the stones, this beautiful stones of Sfas. This is mamash shtus. I'll tell you, there's rules of conduct and daily behavior that between man and his fellow. That this is it's what do you call it? It's shtus, right? You can't do such a thing. So why? Because it's not rational. In other words, what makes something shtus is that I will bring you logic to show you that this is not what it says. And the point is that logic somehow is like this center line, which determines what's right and wrong. And of course there's shtus of the other side, which is basically bad news, which means that you dip below the line of logic and you do things that are illogical for the wrong reasons, and it leads you into turning away from God, basically. Like it says, chas v'shalom, that a man's wife will veer from the ways of tznius. Perish Rashi, tat midarki tznius. Hi, you with us? It says she veered from the ways of tznius, from the immodest path, V'kasiv v'yeshev Yisrael b'shitim. It says the Jewish people sat in a place called Shitim, Shu'inyan hashtus l'u'umad zeh, and there they sinned, right? So it's called the shtus of l'u'umad zeh. They went into a negative place. But Kamayim Razal, the sages said, Ein Adam over avera eli im kein nichnas bo ruach shtus. That's another memorizing line for this mimer. Very important line. Ein Adam over avera eli im kein nichnas bo ruach shtus. A person will not sin, transgress an avera, unless it enters into him a spirit of folly. Shtus is folly. V'ruach hazeh mechasa al ha'emes, because this spirit, it's like a spirit which confounds the clarity of thinking of the mind. And it therefore is like a spirit, a fog that comes in, covering over the truth. And that's why a person will not sin unless this fog comes into him. Right? A person says, well, I just have, this is like, I just kind of do this because, he'll come up with all kinds of explanation, but the real explanation is that a fog has overcome him, and he's not thinking clearly. Because thinking clearly is serving God. So a person will not, impossible to be, and since a person has a godly soul, and that godly soul is in communication if it wants to be with his animal soul, so he has every right and availability to work in a way of intellect and understanding and chokhmah and go in the right path. Problem is, the animal soul exudes this spirit of folly. It basically creates this fog which blocks the ability of the intellect of the godly soul to talk to it, and therefore it winds up falling into shtus. And it's just walking around in a fog, basically, covering the truth. V'ruach shtus hu ruach ha-klippa v'sitra achra. This fog, another name for it, is klippa and sitra achra. It conceals, it blocks the brain of the behemoth from accepting the information of the godly soul. It's called the sitra achra, the other side. Sure. Where did I leave you? In the fog? Okay. V'nikra shtus al derech melech zakein v'chasil. So this shtus is in the way that we call the Yetzer Hara an old and foolish king. The Zohar says, why we call him an old and foolish king? He's old because he preceded the Nefesh Elokis in the body 12 or 13 years. Because you don't get your Nefesh Elokis till your Bar Mitzvah. So he's old. Foolish because he's a fool. And Melech because he thinks he's the king of the world. Right? So this is the idea of this shtus. This is an old and foolish king.
Why is he foolish?
Because everything he does is foolish. He's a shtus. That's what I mean. That's why he brought this. Because kasil means a fool. Everything he does doesn't make sense. Right? He has all kinds of reasons for what he does, but he's just a big idiot.
What holiness do we have?
Huh? Because he preceded the Nefesh Elokis in the body. Until a person's 13, they don't have a godly soul. So he's older than the godly soul in the body. What's that, Chaim?
So, if we don't have a godly soul until we're Bar Mitzvah, what is it to us?
There's Kedusha in the Etzem Indian that you still have the beginnings of the godly soul. It says, for example, even when a person, it's makif to you a little bit. When a person's born, even the Jewish body is holy, first of all. And then you have a bris, so you're into the covenant and so forth. But the truth is that the main thing over there is chinuch. Like, it's sort of like preparing, training your body, so that because you don't get a lot of chance. The second you turn 13, you have a godly soul. And it's right away obligated in every single one of the 613 mitzvahs on the spot. So you just come into that day one without having trained yourself, you have no idea what to do. So it's training. It's like going into basic training before you go into the army. You're not going to give a guy a gun and put him onto the other side of the lines, because what's he going to do over there? He has no idea what to do. He's going to hurt himself. So you train him for 13 years, and then you put him into the battle. Yeah. Yes, they're not. No, they're not chayav in punishment. They are chayav to do the mitzvahs. They're not punished in the same way. Yeah. Or al mazeh. They're not in the realm of punishment. Chayav ba'unsh. Okay. So anyway, this is the Indian. Okay, we're gonna hold here. Melech Zakim V'Chasil, the old wise fool, the old Messiah B'Tov. Okay. Official. So